Hello and welcome. This is the Hendricks How-Tos. My name is Sibylle Meder and I'm one of the Big Leap coaches who do these Hendricks How-Tos every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Pacific time. So you can join us on those days. And today I would like to explore with you the topic of receiving feedback. That's very much my own exploration as well. I've noticed that my personal way of receiving feedback has shifted over the years and has found a lot of support and inspiration from the tools that Gay and Kathlyn Hendricks have developed over the decades of their work. So today I want to explore with you several of these tools and how they can support as a process or with different angles on how to look at that topic, how they can support you in receiving feedback. And I will reference the tools. And usually there is a Hendricks how-to, a previous Hendricks how-to about them, which you can look up either on YouTube or on Mighty Networks, or you can look, check for them and get some reference and further information on the foundationforconsciousliving.com website if you're interested in exploring that further. Okay, so receiving feedback. Feedback is everywhere. It's in our private relationships, it's in professional relationships, and the other side of that is that everything can be feedback, depending on how we look at it. And what I've noticed is, for me, receiving feedback can be a kind of sticky process, and it can be a process that opens up to flow and to connection. So, as an example, in its purest, least loaded form, feedback can be as easy as, could you go into the room next door and let me know whether you can hear the music there? And then the other person goes and says, yes, I can hear it, or no, I cannot. So there is, that's feedback that is factual and usually doesn't elicit any kind of sticky or unpleasant emotion or any reaction from me. You can try that on how you feel about that. And then there's the stickiness of feedback when it is laced with judgment and complaint, either from the giver or the receiver, and when it is loaded with fear. So a form of feedback that can be judgmental is criticism, which is talks about the character and doesn't have anything constructive in it, really. For example, your face is really ugly, or oh, you're such a fat person. There's not, I mean, there are things you could do about it. The question is, do you want to? And it doesn't invite any connection. It's a judgment, and it's kind of an explosion sometimes of emotion and of unloading something, and it's not necessarily constructive. Whereas constructive feedback can, and this is more for the giver of the feedback than the receiver, it gives an idea of what can be changed. It's about the behavior. For example, when you come in and bang the door or shut the door really noisily, I get quite upset because I'm worried the kids will wake up. That is feedback about a behavior that can be changed. So what I want to focus on today is not so much how to give feedback, because most of us probably don't have that many sticky issues with giving feedback. But what I'm more interested in is the receiving of feedback, because that is what I personally, and I have a story that you maybe too, get sometimes stuck in jangles, and there can be bumpiness in the road. So looking at that, one thing that I've noticed is that receiving feedback has a first step that is actually like the first step in whole body listening. And whole body listening is a Hendricks process. There's a previous Hendricks How-To to that. I know that for sure because I've done it, and you can look it up. So the first step of whole body listening is checking in with myself. Am I open to receive right now? Am I open to listen? And in this case, am I open to receive feedback? And whether the answer is yes or no doesn't matter. Both is valuable information. If I'm not open to receive feedback, that's okay. And I can say that. Right now is not a good time. Right now, I'm not open to receive feedback. And then what, for me, in the exploration to dive deeper into that, what came out of that was the question about that openness. How can I become open to receiving feedback in whatever form it comes? How can I open myself? And if you've done any Hendricks trainings already, you might know the openness to discovery scale or the conscious relationship scale. Openness to discovery is more about our own inner world, and openness, conscious relationship scale is about the openness to relating with another person. And in that one of the steps on the plus side, whether you're above the line, one of the steps is appreciating feedback in whatever form it comes. So appreciating feedback includes becoming aware of my listening filters. And again, listening filters is something that you can check out on foundationforconsciousliving.com. Listening filters prevent us from fully listening and from fully receiving what the other person is telling us, because we filter it with our perception, with our projection. And those listening filters that I've noticed are most active when I'm closed to feedback are listening to control. I want to control the situation. I don't want it to get out of hand. I want to be in charge of the situation. Or listening to hear whether I am liked. Please, please like me. Or listening to for approval, which is similar to wanting to be liked. Or listening to be right. I know what this is about, and I want to convince the other person. So I'm not open to receiving their feedback fully. And any of these close me to receiving feedback that is given. Opening to feedback is done through presencing, through being in the present moment. And for that, we have the presencing invitations, another Hendricks How-To you can check out, which in its simplest form can be taking 2 to 3 connected breaths and checking in with your body. Checking in where you most feel a body sensation, where you least feel a body sensation, what your body bits are doing, how your shoulders feel, how your belly feels, how your throat feels, what your breath is doing. For example, I'm noticing I just took a bit of a deeper breath because I got a little bit out of breath. And that brings you in the present moment. You can check what your thoughts are doing, whether they're racing, whether there's any repeating word, or whether you're seeing any image. Any of these bring you into the present moment. And then, because feedback on both the giver or the receiver side is so often laced with fear, of course, fear melters, check them out again at the Hendricks How-Tos, are a wonderful tool to get present, to presence ourselves and get into the present moment. Or also wonder questions. Becoming curious. All of these presencing invitations get us to the present moment. And in that present moment, when I'm present, I can open to claiming my responsibility for my experience right now, which can be tricky, can be sticky, it's a process. And when I'm presencing myself, I can learn to receive anything as feedback, no matter the delivery. And that's not a one-time thing. That's not, oh yeah, now I'm present and everything's fine. It's a process, it's a repetition, it's recommitting to it. And it involves presencing myself and nourishing myself, applying self-love, being willing to try again with the intention to apply loving attention to myself. And from that loving attention, then opening up to feedback. And as an example, to illustrate that, imagine you've had a wonderful day. Everything went well. You had self-care, did your yoga or your walking or swimming or whatever nourishes you. You slept well. You had a fantastic meal. You got some wonderful creative work done. You're feeling on top of the world. And then your toddler comes in and says, I hate you. You're the worst parent in the world because you made that food. Chances are you will not be angry with the toddler, but you'll receive that as, oh, honey, you're not feeling well. And it will not feel like they are judging you and you did something wrong. On the other hand, if you are doing 5 things at the same time, you're on the phone, your child is sick, your partner's in hospital, your parents are losing their memory and they have lost their keys and they have called you 15 times in the last 20 minutes, and then a colleague comes and wants to discuss a project with you, you will probably not be open to that feedback. So the difference between being present and being resourced, resourcing ourselves, and not doing that is the groundwork for opening up to feedback. And that topic of being open to contact and being affected is an essential skill for humanity. And if that's of interest to you, Katie's new seminar, Cultivating New Stories for Humanity, that has just started and is still open for registration, that has that as a topic for the first month, and you can still register for that if you want and join us there in exploring more of that. So this is how far my exploration about receiving feedback goes for today. And as I said, it's still an exploration for a project for me. I'm feeling into that, how I do that for myself, and I'm very curious to receive your feedback about what comes up for you with this. Okay, thank you for joining me at the Hendricks How-Tos today, and I hope to see you again soon.